Sometimes we want one thread to wait until some condition becomes true. For example, over here, the second thread has to wait until the done field becomes true. Now we're implementing this using a while loop with an empty body. The problem with this implementation is that it wastes CPU cycles because this while loop is continuously running until the done field becomes true. It may run millions or even trillions of times, so it wastes CPU cycles. Now we can solve this problem by using the wait and notify methods. So every object in Java has this wait and notify methods. Let me show you. So here if you type status dot, take a look. Every object has these methods: notify all, notify, and wait. These methods are inherited from the object class, which is the parent of all classes in Java. So here we call status.wait, and this will make this thread go to sleep until another thread notifies this thread that the state of the status object is changed. So when we call the wait method, this while loop is not going to run a million times. In the first iteration, this wait method is going to put this thread into sleep until another thread wakes it up. Now here we need to handle the uninterrupted exception just like before. So let's wrap it inside a try-catch block. So this is the body of our while loop. Now, the Java virtual machine expects us to call the wait method inside a synchronized block. So we need to wrap this inside the synchronized block. And we're going to use the status object as our monitor. Now let's move the try-catch block over here. Good. So this is one part of the story. Now we need to go to our first thread. In our download file task class, after we call status.done, we need to notify the other thread that the state of this object is changed. So here we call status.notify. We also have notify all. This is useful if you have multiple threads waiting for a change on this object. With this, we can notify them all. Now, just like the wait method, we need to wrap this line inside a synchronized block. Otherwise, the Java virtual machine is going to throw a runtime exception. So let's add a synchronized block. We're going to use the status object as the monitor, and then call the notify all method. Now, with this implementation, the moment the second thread gets started, this while loop is going to start. And in the first iteration, the wait method is going to put this thread into sleep. So the while loop is not going to get executed a million times. Now, the moment the first thread finishes its job, it's going to notify the second thread. So the second thread is going to wake up, and then it's going to print the total bytes. Let's take a look. There you go. So this is a more efficient implementation than a while loop with an empty body that runs a million times. Having said that, wait and notify can get pretty tricky in complex applications. If you don't use them properly, you're going to run into all sorts of weird issues. So I would say don't use them in new code. These days, we have better tools for implementing this kind of communication between threads. We'll look at them in the next section. I just wanted to briefly talk about wait and notify methods in case you have seen them before and you were curious what they are and how they work.